love illustration, Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing, well, you're probably in the right place. My name is Paul Jackson, and this is my YouTube channel today, and for the rest of this week, I'm going live in the mornings to share my development of book 3. I've already got 2 books published and that I've illustrated, and here we are in my studio. And behind me are some of my illustrations, what I'm doing. So, this is 1 or 2 of the latest illustrations that I'm working on at the moment. And I just explained that I've always been obsessed by detail. I love detail, have done for many, 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 many years. And the kind of work that I do, I work in journals. This is one of my journals. And this is, let's say, one of the illustrations. It's watercolor. So this is watercolor with pen and ink. And I will spend, I don't know, maybe 90 hours on this. And so I have a book full of illustrations. There's another one there. And the reason for being here on YouTube is to share how does my imagination work. And I think essentially these illustrations probably talk for themselves. There is a lot going on, and when I'm writing my books, it's the same. There is a lot going on. There are some strong narratives, big characters, and I started the project in 2012. This is book 2, and this is book 1. And yeah, I am having an amazing time creating and sharing my world that's called the Realms of Elsewhere. Anyway, today, let's get on with what I want to do today, which is I'm going to be here in my studio, in this place, this environment. Somebody said to me this morning, how do I get inside your head? How do I get inside your head? They've been following me for a year and a half on TikTok, and I've had such a lovely time sharing how I work and why I do what I do. So here, I just wanted, before I start, to explain that what I've done with the surface of the paper is that I've etched in to the paper. In other words, with a sharp end, I have created textures here on blank paper. In other words, something you can't see. So in this, you can't see it, but I can. I can see a slight indentation. Because this illustration is about a storm, I'm going to be having rain falling. So I'm just doing some of that. And then when I lay the pencils over that indentation, it shows. It begins to show up, and then I work with it. And that becomes a style. With this one, this is watercolor and pen and ink. It's quite different. I'm not using indentation. I'm using a lot of gold painting, but in the end, there are some elements that are exactly the same, which is that they are both from my imagination that I've either written about already, I'm writing about already, or I'm telling. So I'm actually creating it through the oral tradition. And to put some sort of light on that, to be a professional storyteller, one needs to do what's called the 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours literally means that you're telling stories for that length of time over a period of years, and to many, many, many different audiences. So that can be from 80-year-olds to 15-year-olds to 18-month-year-olds, in fact, stories. narrative, the wonder of narrative, the wonder of stories. And of course, the truth is, we're all stories. We remember our lives through a sense of story. The narrative of a moment, sometimes we call those moments, they are rites of passage, coming into the world, learning to be a young man, young woman, falling in love for the first time, getting married, having children, dying. These are all rites of passage. They have to happen to you. And if they happen to you, you go from child to young adult. In the old way, a community would help you in that journey. These days it's different, blurred edges, but we are all narratives made up of many moments in our lives, people we have met, things we have learned. As a dyslexic, my learning was skewed. I struggled with blackboards. Instead, I went into my imagination. So here I am, I'm scraping onto this leg here of this character. And then when I'm just going to lay a little bit of colour on there, not too much, just to show you what's happening here. When we fall into the imagination, we become entranced by what happens inside our heads, a reaction to a place that we're in, perhaps. And for me, when I'm out walking on my own, all kinds of things start sparking away. I become inspired, sometimes by the way the wind blows through trees, sunlight coming through branches, the movement of an animal running across dry autumn leaves, the sound of a waterfall. So you can see here, slowly this colouring and recolouring, building something inside what I've already created within the piece. I was in Cornwall for a month, house sitting and dog sitting, which was amazing, which gave me an opportunity to go into new landscapes. But at the same time, just getting a bit of shading there, at the same time, to just go walking with the dog and watching a world unfold in front of me that I didn't know. I think sometimes our imaginations are keener when we're exposed to new experiences. You're more likely to look around. I personally have always looked around. It's just a thing. It's probably something to do with loving nature. So an illustration like this takes working on it for 2 or 3 weeks to develop it. I'm working on book 3, which is called The Merchant of Storms, with a number of characters developing in the first 2 books. Because I have a plotting book which develops the major plot, I also from time to time get new characters appearing because the plot asks for somebody new that I hadn't considered when I first considered the 9 books and the main story, because I like to be open to new possibility. And when you have that uncharted waters, the unexpected, there by that becomes an energy. And what I mean by that is that my head gets excited by a new possibility that will fit with the overall narrative, but is actually opening up a whole new set of possibilities that answers a question that I have in the plot, but I want to leave it until I'm ready to explore it. And I'm going to show you a picture of a character who was not in the first 3 books, and I'm just editing book 3. Right at the end, he appears. He was not in the book. I had a forest that was moving. It was being pulled by a herd of reindeer, and it was leading to this huge end to book 3. And then the character I'm about to show you came to light as being the, I suppose, the ultimate symbol of nature and humanity. His name is Gildrin the Bright. Here he is. Just going to tip that camera a bit. So Gildrin the Bright, he's part forest, part person. And yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed drawing him. He just sort of came out of nowhere, and he enters this narrative. It's not changing the narrative, but it's enhancing it, in fact. And I could only come to know him by reaching that point in the story where I too had grown. I think that's quite important, actually. Quite important thought, that the growing for the writer is possibly as important as it is for the reader. It's interesting, isn't it? I hadn't considered that before. That in me exploring and finding, as well as writing and drawing, I get excited in a way that is totally and absolutely genuine. Storytelling is relaxing. Stories, the narrative. This giant, suddenly appears in a village. The village is drenched with rain. People are starting to be washed away. Houses are being washed away. And he suddenly appears. As the water of the river has come down from the mountain, it's toppled trees. They've been thrown down through the flow, down the valley in the dale. Great whole trees being carried by this swell of water, until it reaches the bridge just before this village. And there the trees are brought up to a stop against the great stone of this big bridge that people cross, or had crossed every day, to go from one side of the village to the other. And there they are, blocking the way, so the water starts spreading into the village, surrounding the water's rising. And then, as there are some people standing on the bridge trying to reach down with ropes to move the fallen trees and the branches, then he appears, the giant, from seemingly nowhere. 5, 6, 7 times, 8 times the height of them, a giant. What does this mean? People look in the pouring rain, the wind, they see this shape coming towards them, striding down through the water, striding towards the bridge. They stare up in horror, fearful that he's about to kill them. But no, no, not this giant. No. Instead, he looks down and he began to move these branches, these trees, lifting them up, putting them to one side. The water starts to flow underneath the bridge again. The people watch as then this giant steps over the bridge, over them, and heads towards the village, all flooding. And then at once, he does this. He picks up one of the houses, carefully, gently, scooping his fingers underneath the house, gently lifting it up so nothing in the house moves, except for a door. A door opens, and the owner of the house, an old woman, looks out and says, "What's going on? What's happening?" All the while, the giant is lifting the house further and further up into the air, and then places it on a hill, making sure that it doesn't move. "There," he says, "there, you be all right there. You shan't drown there. Now," and he looks around, making sure that it's steady. "There, I'll not harm you," he said. And he looks around and he looks down into the village and he looks down to the river and he picks up another house and then another and another until all the houses are saved. And all of it while it's pouring with rain, the wind is lashing across the hills and down over the river and down over the houses. He saves them all. And when they are all saved, with 3 or 4 great strides, he leaves the river and the village and goes up over the hill, and they watch him go, this unknown stranger. Up he goes, looking around. "Now where shall I go? For I am tired. I needs to lay down and I'm so hungry." Ahead of him, he sees some trees and recognizes them for what they are. "Apples," says he, "apples." And standing there, he starts picking some of the apples. He picks up as many as he can in his pockets, in his great big hands. And then he wanders off to the end of the orchard where there's a great hollow, like a form that you have for a hare who sleeps in a form of the land. And there he lays down in a form that's big enough for him. He puts his back against the wind and he lays down in the hollow. And laying there, he begins to eat the apples. "Oh, they're tasty, and I'm tired and needs to sleep," he says. And then slowly he falls to sleep, having eaten 6 of these little apples. It's not long afterwards, when the wind drops, when the rain eases, that the people go looking for the giant who saved them. Just sharpening my pencil here. I just need a good sharp line, I realised. They go looking for the giant. And I imagined as they went up the hill, they could see, "Look, there's a footprint there. He came this way." And they look else. "Look there. There's another footprint. He must have gone up to the old hill. What's he going up there for? I wonder if he's gone..." Wait a minute. Be quiet, everyone. Can you see what I can see? And they're looking over the rise of the hill between the apple trees. They see a shape in a form, partly hidden because it's low down. "Isn't that him?" they say. "Do you think he's dangerous?" "No," say the children. "Dangerous? He's not dangerous. Let's get a bit closer." And so they get closer. 10 yards away, 5 yards. They look down over his shoulder, his back, his head. Is his eyes shut? They walk around him slowly. He's snoring. And look at this. they see all the apples there, some in his pockets, some of the apple cores as well, an apple half eaten, tiny in his hand. Well, well, well. So our Saviour likes apples. Well, there's a thing. And they slowly tiptoe away to mend their houses, to shore them up if they've been moved by the giant onto a hill or three. Later, when they're working on their houses, they hear a rumbling. At first they think it's thunder. They look at the sky, but the sky is almost blue. Then they look up the hill, and sitting there on the ridge of a hill is the giant. And the children, not scared. The children are first to go up there. 3 or 4 of them there must have been. 2 girls, 3 boys, until they're right close. Morning, they say. Did you sleep well? He looks down at them, curious of these small people he is. He'd seen small people on his journeys since he'd been lost. And now he looked down at these children who seemed so very small. What did they say? I did, he says. I did sleep well, but I'm so hungry. Have you got any more of these? And he holds out his hand, and there's an apple core there in his hand. Have you got any more, for I'm ever so hungry, and I wouldn't mind 1 or 2. The children rush down the hill. I don't mean any harm, he says. We haven't taken any, says one of them, shouting back at him. We're going to go and find you some apples. He watches them run down into the village, go into houses, and soon others are there, bigger. Perhaps their parents, he thinks, mothers and fathers. And they've got something, and they're wheeling them through the streets. He'd never seen one of those, wasn't sure what it was. But wheelbarrows, they had wheelbarrows. And they went to the orchards down below. They went to the great orchard above. And they filled those wheelbarrows. Until at last, they were with him. And they went up to the hollow, and he followed. The hollow at the end of the orchard. And he watched them curious as they poured out those apples on the grass at the edge of that hollow that they said was his. These are for you, says an old man. You saved us, and we want to give you some food. As a thank you, he says, looking up at the giant. We don't mean you any harm. Me, I don't either, he says. Where have you come from? Says an old lady after a while, as they watched the giant eat. I'm lost, he said. I don't know how to get home. Oh, but you saved us. We thought you must have been here because you wanted to be here. I saw the water, he said. I was trying to catch something in the water, and then I saw a great big tree pass me by, and I followed it, and then I saw your homes. Well, you saved us, they said, and now we want to help you. Perhaps we can help you get home. Can you describe what it's like? It's over the hill, he said. Over there, and he points to a high ridge above the village. Oh, that's the moor, they say. Is that where you come from, then? The moor. We shall send out a search party, they said. We shall meet tonight and decide to send out a search party. You sleep here, we'll bring you apples. So that night, while he slept in the hollow, the people gathered in the meeting house, the biggest house in the village. There was a good 100 of them there, children as well. And they set to talking about the giant. What What a challenge it would be to go and find where he came from, and how would they know the way? There will be a way, says the old woman. I've seen it. Look here. And she had a pot, a copper pot, edged with gold. Look here. And she held it up until everybody could see the pot. They knew it well. It had come from the boffins of long ago. It had skills. You put water in it, and then you put a silver coin, and if the coin settled on the ground inside the water, there was no story for you, no truth. But if it floated, then it was magical, and it would flow in the direction of an answer. Ask a question, go left, you do one thing. If it crosses the water and goes right, you do another. So someone brought a silver coin, knowing that silver coins will melt or fall and sink or tell the truth. The old woman said a few words. Everyone watched as she sat in the middle of all those people. She sat down and they watched her sitting there with the pot in her arms. It was about a foot across. It was big enough for them all to see. They watched to take the silver coin. We need to know where the giant came from. Can you show us the way? For he must be lonely. She put the silver coin on the surface of the water. Most there expected something to happen, but it didn't. The coin floated on the water. It was a miracle, for this is an oracle, magical things. Still, it floated on the surface, and then slowly it started to move. If it's over the hill towards the moor, go to the left. The silver coin began to float to the left. Do we just keep climbing until we find the land of giants and where he came from? The coin went the other way. Well, what does that mean? Said an old man. What does that mean? A little boy stood up then. He was well known in the village. He was a cheeky so-and-so, but he sometimes knew, they said. He knew things. And he knew to ask a different question. Is there something waiting for us to go up there? The coin moved in the right direction. A yes. Is it like a giant? It went no. Is it an animal? It went yes. Various animals were named. It was always a no. Until somebody said, what about a horse then? What if it's a horse waiting for us? There are horses up there. The coin went to the yes. Then that's it then, they said. There's a horse waiting for us. So the next day, 3 or 4 of the children and a couple of the older people, the wise ones, went up the hill. They looked to the giant sitting there in the orchard munching away. He watched them going up the lane. Thought to join them, but he was so tired. So he watched them instead. Up the lane they went and round the corner, up past a field and then another. Nothing. And then just as the rise reached its top and they could see the moor in the distance and the purple of the heather and a storm coming, another storm. They needed the giant there, for things had to be done. But he must go home too, said the children. Just as they were saying this and agreeing this, they realized they were being watched. They looked up. They looked across the field, and something was coming up the field. A black horse it was, red edges to its eyes, a strange, magical horse, slowly coming up towards them, almost in a light gallop. Up it came, up it came, all the while the old people watching it, for they knew the signs of magic and alchemy and wonder, and they were beginning to realize that this was all of those. The children stood there by the gate, the old people watching the horse. When the horse reached the gate started to open. Now they knew this was magic. The horse looked down at the children. I have come a long way, said the horse. I was woken from a dream. I saw a silver coin falling towards me and knew it was time. Time for what? Said an old man. Time to go. I will take you, some of you. Come with me. The children can ride on my back. The rest of you can follow. The children looked up at the horse, who was huge. But the old people lifted them up one by one until there were 5 children on the back of the black horse. There, they said, hold on tight. We'll follow. We'll go fast, said the horse. It will get very fast. You'll have to run quickly. The horse started to trot down the hill with the 5 children on its back. Down they went, down they went. And all the while the giant was in the orchard munching away on the small apples. Down went the horse, meanwhile, galloping faster and faster through the grass. The children holding on, the old people chasing as fast as they could, their hats falling off, shoes coming off. Still they chased it. Don't let it go, not out of our sight. They kept up with the horse, even though the horse went faster and faster. They were exhausted, and then it happened. The grassy hill vanished for them all who kept up, and instead the field was full of straw and hay and reeds. Everything was yellow and brown. Sun was shining, the rain was not there. Neither were the moors. Children were on the back of the horse, but now the sun was shining, and the old people were there just keeping up, exhausted. We did it. And where have you taken us? They looked around as the horse stopped. One by one, the children were taken off its back. You should follow me, for I know where to take you. They followed the horse through the fields, down along the edge of a river. Through a ford they went, and there before them, such a mighty house. Huge it was, on the edge of a hill beside the river. A wheel turning, for this was a watermill, and outside was a giantess. Enormous she was. She was wringing out clothes in the water underneath the watermill. She looked up as she heard the horse coming towards her, and then she saw the people. I wonder where you've been. I wondered why you weren't in the field. I found him, says the horse. I found him. And the horse began to explain the world where these people came from. Come here, says the horse. Come and meet the mother of the giant. The children, encouraged by the old people, came from behind the horse until they looked up at the giant, who was sitting down but was enormous. She stopped wringing out the clothes. Tell me your story, she says. What has happened? You've met my son. Between them they told the story of what her son had done. That's my son. He's always been like that, always wanting to help. He does the same thing here for anything that falls in the river. He's always loved the water, loves all the animals, grows all kinds of things. You see all those flowers over there? He planted them all. brought them from the fields, brought them from the hills, loves growing things, loves helping. And he's got lost, probably picking things and not watching where he was going. And he saved your village. That's so good. They explained how he loved apples. She laughed again, a bigger laugh. Oh, yes, that is my son. He has always loved apples. Do you want him to come home? Said a young girl. She was about 7 years old. She wasn't scared at all. Her name was Grace, and Grace was often known as Grace, the Honourable Grace. Honorary because she was younger than anyone else in the gang, but braver than any of them as well. Do you want him to come home? She said, getting closer to the giantess, looking up. The giantess picked up little Grace, put her in her arms. Grace, she says, nice name, a good name. He doesn't have to come home. He has work to do with you, I think. That's why he got lost. But he loves apples, and seeing as you're so small, I would imagine your apples are very small too. A boy by the name of Argy, brother to Grace, pulled out an apple from his pocket and showed the giantess, who laughed again. Ah, come with me. She stood up, dropped the clothing beside the river, and with the horse as well, they went up over the field, through to an orchard. Now these trees were 40, 50, 60 feet high, and in them were massive apples. Some of the apples were as big as the children. The children looked up with their eyes open wide. The giantess laughed at them. Yes, she said, they are delicious. Best apples in this valley or the next. Are there more giants like you? Oh, many, she said. There are many of us, but they're not all to be trusted. So, I have a feeling that my son should stay with you a while, so you should have one of these. She picked up one of the children, held him up to the tree. Pick that one, she said. Her long finger touched one of the red apples. Pick that one. The boy, it was a boy this time, watched by a younger boy, who picked a giant apple. That one. Twisting it, because he knew that's what you do, and if it was ripe, it would come off. There was a... and it came off. She carried him to the ground. Now, she said, I have a knife here somewhere. She took out a knife from her apron pocket. Oh, didn't I tell you she was wearing an apron? Well, she was, for she was doing the kind of work where you need to wear an apron. Anyway, she took out a knife from the apron and split the apple in two. As it opened, there inside were pips made of gold. You see these? All of them, all of the apples in our tree have pips like these. For there is a boffin that we know who lives over the hill and far away. He lives close to Withicombe, up in Blun Moor. He has magical powers. He works with the fairies. He has made every pip made of gold. And for a good reason, she says. It means that when you... No, I won't tell you. And she put her big fingers inside that apple almost as big as the children, it seemed. And she took out one of the pips and looked at the children, and there was the girl, Grace. Here, she said, you have this. Take it back home with you and plant it for my son. But when you do, tell him what you're doing. Let him be there. He must be there. But can we take someone with us now? Some of the apples, only he's very hungry, and our apples are very small, said another of the children. You won't have to do that, was all she would say. Just take this gold pip. And she looked up at the horse. You can take them home now. Don't forget to come back. And when you see my son, and she went up to the horse and whispered something, tell him that. Yes, said the horse. With that, the children climbed on the back of the horse again, went up the field of gold, the field of hay and straw and barley and golden grass, followed by the old people who were amused and bemused by the wonder of it all. And as the horse began to gallop, so the old people began to run. As fast as they could go, they went, until at last the horse was going fast enough that everything that was golden vanished, and they were back in the field of green and heather, back home. The children climbed off the back of the horse, who immediately ran back down the hill, galloping faster and faster, and vanishing as if disappearing into mist. And they went home. They went through the gate and down the lane, and saw the giant sitting there, still waiting for them. They gathered around him then as he sat there, and told him exactly what had happened, and what his mother had said. He smiled. You should bury it then, plant it somewhere. Well, we should plant it here, said an old woman. This is where your tree will grow, and we hope that within a few seasons, perhaps it will be big enough to have some fruit. And the giant stared at them. Perhaps it might be a bit sooner. The seed of gold was planted, and the giant went silent. The children went very quiet. Something was happening. At first it was imperceptible, except to Grace, who could hear something. And then the hill, the orchard, the apple trees, all of them began to shake, as if the world was about to turn upside down and change forever. Then the soil began to move where they planted the seed. Then the top of a little branch, a sapling, began to appear out of the ground, pushing the soil this way and that. By now the sky was full of birds of one sort or another who were singing songs, strange songs that nobody there understood except for the giant, who smiled at them and thanked them for the song. By now the sapling was about 3 foot high, almost as high as the children. Still, it grew bigger and bigger. Now everyone was stepping backwards as it was now 8, 10 foot high, and still it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and still it grew bigger until at last that sapling within an hour was as big as this. And the children looked up, and there were apples beginning to grow. First they saw flowers. Then there were bees. Hundreds of bees suddenly appeared as if they knew. Every flower was pollinated, and every flower began to grow fruit that grew and grew and grew before the eyes of all who were there. And the children laughed and smiled and shook their hands one to another. They made up a dance, they made up a song. Could not believe, they said, that this is the day, that the seed grew to a tree and the tree had fruit. And look at the fruit. We should take the fruit, they said. And the children climbed the tree and did as they'd done in the land of the giants. Twisting and turning, an apple came down, and they passed the apples down to the children on the ground below. And the first apple was given to the giant, who, in great pleasure, sat on the edge of the hollow and bit into the apple. The sweetest thing I've had in weeks, he said. Will you stay? asked the children. Will you stay a while? He bit again. I will, he said, for I've got work to do here, I think. Like eating apples, quipped one of the children. Exactly, said the giant. Exactly. And they left him to it. They left him to eating his apples. Underneath this great big apple tree, 5 times the big as any other apple tree there in the orchard. And as they wandered down towards the village, the old people said to one another, well, what do you say that we should build him a house? For he can't live there. Winter will be coming. Then we shall build him a house as a thank you, and we shall build it near his tree. That's what we should do. By the time they'd finished that sentence, they were at the meeting house, and everyone was in there, and they heard the story of what had happened, and they wondered what it must have been like to have been there to see such a thing happen. And they all agreed on that day that they would start to work together to build a house for the giant that they now called the Apple Tree Giant. And that, as they say, was the beginning of his story. The story that comes from the realms of elsewhere, the great land of wonders, of marvels, the land of illustration, the land where all manner of things happen, where dragons fly, where elvish people live in great cities, where there are many, many stories. This is the map, one of the maps from the books that you get inside your book. This is the first map which covers the whole of the realms of elsewhere and the 32 countries, from the Goblin Empire in the north to Porthdrumic in the south, and to the island of Humble, where the first 3 books are set. And here is Humble itself. The towns, villages, the places of history. These are the realms of elsewhere. And these are the characters of elsewhere. And lastly, this is Braden Boren, who made the gold that turns the seeds into something quite magical. And this is the first book of the realms of elsewhere. And these are their stories. My name is Paul Jackson. These are the realms of elsewhere. And book 2 came out in 2025, The Uprising, with its own map and its own illustrations. And I'm, over the next 5 or 6 years, sharing the development of the realms here on YouTube. Do follow me to find out more and to go to my website. And yeah, that's what I'm doing.